Now we move from the sourcing issues in a supply chain to the distribution issues in a supply chain. One important element for the distribution network of a supply chain are warehouses. And here, again, I should emphasize warehouses will play a bigger role in other courses in the distribution network planning course and in the warehouse and inventory management course that we provide you at Geotech. So this is just a first introduction into the role of a warehouse. And if we want to classify the role of warehouses, we can distinguish between warehouses that are inside a factory, inside a plant, warehouses that take part of a very local distribution level only, very limited space, and regional warehouses that deliver services for a much broader defined region. Another thing that we can use to distinguish between warehouses is who is the owner of the warehouse, who is the shareholder of the warehouse. Is it the manufacturing company? Is it the supplier of the manufacturer? Is it the wholesaler that buys the manufacturer's good? Or is it a third-party warehouse? Third-party warehouse means a third-party company, a logistics service provider. The business of this company is to provide warehouse space, and you can rent it and pay this third-party company, though this is a pure logistics service provider. And everyone can rent the warehouse on a short-term or long-term basis. We can also distinguish between general warehouses and warehouses that are used as distribution center, distribution warehouses. Let's say in a general warehouse, the focus is on storing the goods. The focus is on long-time storage of the different goods. Then for this, usually we need a lot of space. One example for a general warehouse is PDO. PDO requires near their oil fields where they produce, where they get out the oil from the ground, a lot of drilling equipment. And sometimes this drilling equipment breaks or requires service, and then we need a replacement. Though this replacement of the drilling equipment should be delivered as fast as possible, otherwise we cannot produce, and this is very costly. And therefore PDO operates equipment warehouses near their oil fields, where they store drilling equipment. But fortunately, the drilling equipment does not break very often, so there's not a high need to get the products out of the warehouse frequently or very often. Maybe they get some things out of the warehouse a few times a week only, in particular for the big equipment. Though in such a warehouse, the focus is on storing the goods, storing the equipment, and getting it out as quickly as possible when needed. On the other hand, we have very sophisticated distribution warehouses or distribution centers. Here, the main idea is not a long-time storage of the goods. Of course, we still store the goods in this warehouse, of course, but the more important business perspective is getting the products through the warehouse as quickly as possible, moving the goods through the warehouse as quickly as possible. And one example of this type of warehouse is for a typical e-commerce company that retail customers place their orders, like Amazon, for example. And in these types of warehouses, the emphasis is on throughput, on commissioning the orders as quickly as possible and picking the goods as quickly as possible and getting a very high volume of products out of the warehouse quickly. And in such a warehouse, usually the storage time of the goods is much, much lower than in a general warehouse. What other functions does a warehouse fulfill? So we use a warehouse when we want to do a consolidation of our transport quantities. So imagine you have a couple of suppliers for different products, and if every supplier, for example, you have 10 suppliers, if every supplier provides you with these products, then let's say you have 10 different trucks arriving at your factory during a week. And every truck gives you a few number of products. If the truck is not fully occupied, is not fully used by the products, we call this less than truckload transportation. Yeah? We transport goods that don't use the truck to the full capacity. And now we can tell our suppliers to provide our warehouse with these less than truckload quantities, and we can put all the goods from the different suppliers together. We can consolidate these goods and use a single truck to provide the shipment to our factory. This is, for example, typically done for retail shops, grocery shops. Another thing very much related is product mixing. The customer orders a number of products, maybe from different suppliers, and the warehouse can group the items together, though that only one shipment is required. The difference between product mixing and transport consolidation is that for transport consolidation, we might also consolidate different quantities of the same good so that we can achieve a truckload quantity. For example, for transport consolidation, we could consolidate some oil barrels from different production sites in one warehouse and then fill a complete truck with the oil barrels and send the trucks through the country to make a truckload shipment. And in the product mixing, the emphasis is that we can combine products from different suppliers, that we can combine different products in a shipment. We also use warehouses to increase our service level. This can be, for example, seen in the automotive industry, where suppliers of automotive parts often have a local warehouse near the car manufacturer's plant. And from this local warehouse to the car manufacturer's plant, typically they are very, very close, only a few kilometers apart. And why do they do this? This reduces delivery time significantly. Maybe we are talking about a time window of 20 minutes or less. And then such a warehouse can support the manufacturing process. For example, in the automotive industry, production is called, when they do the just-in-sequence production, where it is really important in which sequence a certain part of the car is delivered, because the sequence is 100% aligned to the sequence that different cars are produced in the factory. And this can significantly increase the service level. Another part or another function that such a warehouse can fulfill, the service can be increased by postponement. Postponement is the attempt to try to differentiate your product as late as possible. For example, we have a printer manufacturer, a computer printer manufacturer in China, and this manufacturing company provides the product, sells this product to countries and customers all around the world. Then every country in the world, they have different requirements regarding the power plug, for example, or regarding the handbook. And then the main printer is produced in China and in a warehouse that is in the customer's region. Then we just add the right power plug and the handbook in the right language, maybe some warranty information based on the local market, and we only finish the product on a later stage in the supply chain. Doing it this way is much easier than doing it directly in the factory in China, because once we put the power plugs that can be used in Oman into the box of the printer in China, we need to pay attention, we need to pay special attention that really this box is delivered to Oman. Maybe when the supply and demand changes over time, we cannot just reroute this box to another market, for example in the US, because this power plug is already included. So postponement means we finish the product at a later stage in the supply chain, and usually this is done by adjusting it to the local market.